December 7th, 1941, a date burned into history. The morning sun rose quietly over Hawaii, but within minutes, fire rained from the sky. At Pearl Harbor, American ships burned, sailors drowned, and the illusion of safety was shattered forever. The United States was not ready, not for this kind of war, not for this kind of loss. Across the nation, radios carried the same terrible news, and families listened in silence, knowing that the world had changed. America had been hit hard, humiliated on its own soil. Many believed the nation was weak, slow, and unprepared. But what the enemy failed to understand was this: America does not rise in comfort. It rises in crisis. That attack did not break the nation. It awakened it. Factories that once slept roared to life. Farmers, workers, students, and soldiers all felt the same fire in their hearts. This was no longer a distant conflict. This was personal. And from the ashes of Pearl Harbor, the first spark of America's comeback was born. The days after Pearl Harbor were filled with fear, but also determination. America knew it could not win by anger alone. It needed strength, unity, and time. Across the nation, men lined up to enlist, while women stepped into factories, building tanks, planes, and ships at an unimaginable speed. Every bolt tightened, every engine tested carried one message: we will return. The Pacific looked lost, enemy forces advanced, and American morale was tested again and again. But behind the scenes, commanders planned carefully, waiting for the moment to strike back. This was not a loud comeback. It was a silent one. Training intensified, strategies evolved, and technology improved. America learned from its wounds. Each loss became a lesson. Each setback became fuel. The world still doubted, but America was preparing something bigger than revenge, something decisive. The question was no longer if America would return, but when. And that moment was closer than anyone imagined. Midway was more than a victory. It was proof. Proof that America had learned, adapted, and come back stronger. News of the battle raced across the world, lifting spirits at home and shaking enemy confidence. For the first time since Pearl Harbor, hope felt real. The hunter had become the hunted. America was no longer surviving the war. It was shaping it. This was the moment history turned, when the world realized that the comeback was no longer coming. It had already begun. After Midway, America pushed forward with unstoppable momentum. Island by island, city by city, the nation fought its way toward victory. The comeback was no longer just military. It was moral. Soldiers fought not for conquest, but for freedom, for families back home, for a future without fear. When victory finally came in World War II, it carried the weight of sacrifice, millions who never returned, and countless lives forever changed. America's comeback became a lesson written in blood and courage. Falling does not define a nation. Rising does. From the ashes of Pearl Harbor to the triumphs that followed, the United States proved that even in the darkest moments, resilience can change history. This was not just a comeback. It was a reminder to the world that hope, when defended with courage, can overcome even the greatest storm. After the turning point, America no longer waited for the war to come to its shores. It carried the war forward. Across oceans and continents, American forces moved with renewed confidence. Every landing was hard. Every mile was paid for in blood, but the direction was clear. From burning jungles to ruined cities, soldiers advanced knowing retreat was no longer an option. The comeback had entered its most dangerous phase. Victory was possible now, but not guaranteed. Fear still walked beside every soldier, yet it no longer controlled them. America had learned that strength was not just firepower, it was endurance. Day after day, the pressure increased on enemy forces. Supply lines were cut, defenses weakened, and morale began to crack. The world watched as the United States transformed from a wounded nation into a relentless force, pushing history forward with every step. But comebacks are never free. Behind every advance were names carved into memory: brothers, sons, friends who never returned home. Letters stopped arriving. Chairs at dinner tables stayed empty. The American comeback was built on sacrifice, not celebration. Soldiers fought through exhaustion, hunger, and loss, carrying the weight of those who had fallen before them. At home, families waited, prayed, and worked, knowing their pain was part of something larger. This was the true test of the nation's resolve. Could America endure the cost of finishing what had started? The answer was written not in speeches, but in silence, the silence of those who chose duty over fear. The comeback was no longer about revenge or pride. It had become a promise that the fallen would not be forgotten and their sacrifice would not be in vain. As the war dragged on, something changed. Enemy resistance remained fierce, but belief began to fade. America's steady advance sent a clear message. This war would not end with intimidation. Every victory weakened not just armies, but confidence. Cities once thought untouchable fell. Plans once considered perfect collapsed. The psychological battle was being won alongside the military one. America had mastered patience and pressure. There was no single dramatic moment here, just an unstoppable grind that crushed the will to fight. The comeback had matured. It was disciplined, focused, and determined. Allies gained strength from it. Enemies feared it. The world understood now that this was not a temporary surge. It was a force that would not stop until the war itself was broken. When the war finally ended in World War II, the world was forever changed. The United States emerged not just as a victor, but as a symbol of resilience. America's comeback was never about perfection. It was about response, about rising after falling, about choosing unity over fear, sacrifice over surrender. This story still matters today because it reminds us that even the strongest nations can be shaken, but they're defined by how they stand back up. From the ashes of defeat to the weight of victory, America proved that history is not written by those who never fall, but by those who rise when it matters most. This was not just a comeback in war. It was a lesson for generations.